You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds! Nerds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining us is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
Mama, ooh, didn't mean to make you cry. Sometimes wish I'd never been born at all.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson.
Quick, suck it before the venom reaches my heart.
Wife Dork.
You don't look better. Or are you this pale all the time?
And Brad Gullickson.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not going away anytime soon.
Mouth Dork.
My brother always makes me wear this stupid mask. Do you know why? Because I'm prettier than him.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warm. Warmer. Disco.
The Disco Dork. Being human is a condition that requires some anesthesia. And welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Yay!
Nice pipes, Brian.
Thank you.
Is this
I appreciate.
Brian's first singing intro?
I may have sung before. I may have
I feel
rapped.
like you've brought the ruckus before.
I think I did. I think years ago, for Straight Outta Compton, I did a little rhyme, did a little rap.
Oh,
Which I don't
but
think
sing?
I don't think I brought the pipes before. So
Oh.
this could have been the first time I've done that. Yeah, possibly.
Man, so many years together and we still have first.
I know.
All right. Mr. Windpipes, how was your week in Dork?
Weekend Dork is actually pretty great. Actually saw a lot of films. Just signed up for Cinemia, so I've been
going ape shit.
I have been. I kind of slowed down, but I saw a couple.
Did you though?
Yeah, I saw the movie that we're going to talk about for our review. Soul Bodied with my man Brad over here.
It was a B&B date night.
Yeah, it was. It was great. I thoroughly enjoyed that, but I know we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then also went on a little date with the B&D show. We went and saw Rampant. Rampant is a film. This is what I'm actually going to talk about just a little bit because
His date was better than my date?
No. It wasn't.
Darren is guaranteed to put out, is what I was going to say.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
late recording.
there's that.
You are a married man, Brad. You are a married man. But
Which means second base is cheating.
So Rampant, this was a movie, man. It's so interesting how I kind of discovered this film because I saw a social media post literally last week from Andy talking about, is this a film that should he program for a film club? And he wanted to kind of get the temperature of a lot of people in the film club group to see if it should be something. And it comes from the studio Welgo USA, who also did Train to Busan. And once I heard Train to Busan, I'm like, oh, my ears perk up because I actually love that movie. And just a side tidbit, we always talk about our top 10 list. And, of course, my top 10 in 2016 was, I had Train to Busan as my number 5. That is officially my favorite movie of 2016. Sorry, La La Land, you've been bumped to number 2.
Yeah.
I love Train to Busan. It's just an absolutely fabulous movie. But when they mentioned that it came from the same studio, and when I did a trailer reaction, and it's basically a movie that takes place in like feudal ancient China, and it's a genre mashup film that deals with zombies in that time, during that time, and in that setting. And I didn't know if it was actually going to be playing because it has a release of November 2nd. So I was telling Darren, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this film. But I know Cinemark Arundel Mills normally plays a lot of independent and foreign films. So, but I couldn't really see their schedule of films until that weekend. And I was going through Fandango. and I saw Rampant playing there, and I immediately texted Darren. I sent him a screenshot. I was like, dude, and he was like, yo, what you trying? I was like, okay, let's go see that joint today. So we went up there and saw it, and it's no Train to Busan, but I gotta say, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. Again, this is no spoilers because it's limited release foreign film. It's not going to be accessible to a lot of people, but I like it's basically, it kind of tells kind of like that tried and true story about there's a dynasty called the King Dynasty that has kind of overtaken this land, and it's really about the people of that land trying to rebel and uprise against this dynasty, and there are certain factions within the dynasty that is also trying to overthrow the king. And what I like about the film is how the zombie aspect, who they refer to as demons in this film, how that plays into the narrative of the story in such a seamless way. How they're able to kind of really take that zombie aspect, that genre mashup, I think fits really well into the story and the way it plays out. Like, it doesn't feel like it's forced, and it feels very naturalistic. And the thing that I love about Train to Busan is how we really get emotionally connected and invested into those characters. I mean, we have the father and the daughter, but everybody else on that plane, the two older ladies, the guy with his wife, with his pregnant wife, the baseball team, the guy and the girl there, and we're invested into all these different characters. And with this film, it takes a little while for it to kind of get going, but you do. To me, I love the third act of this film. The third act of this film just kind of kicks ass, and it goes like it's just kick ass crazy, and it has some very, very poignant and heartfelt moments with a lot of characters that I appreciate that the film actually gives moments to these smaller characters to really kind of flesh out the stakes of what's happening in this movie, and I think it does this in a really, really profound way. I don't know. This is a South Korean film, and it just goes back to like a lot of the stuff that I say about these foreign films, whether it's South Korea or Norway with their disaster films. Like, they pay attention to character and the spectacle. You get the spectacle with these films. Like, you get the zombies, you get these, this genre mashup, you get all this stuff, but all that stuff doesn't work unless you ground it into something, grounded with characters that you can actually care about. And this movie has that. Again, I'll say it's not as good as Train to Busan, and I don't even think you can really compare it to that outside of the fact that it's being released by the studio that released that film. I think that is the only connection to
and actually
movie.
That's not it's Wellgo is just the distributor.
The distributor, yeah.
So it has there's no director creative.
I want to say
I don't know
the
if
director,
it is.
no, but the actual, whoever the financing of that studio, of that film might be the same studio that financed Train to Busan, but
it
creatively, I don't think the director or the producer maybe, but director, no.
No, definitely not the director. I mean, of course, they're using that in the marketing because they know how well received Train to Busan is. So I get why they're using that in the marketing to try to sell this film. But even outside of that, I think this film does stand on its own. Again, it's not like the best thing ever, but I really, really enjoyed it. If you look at my Letterboxd, I gave it 3.5 stars. I really, really liked it. I just think that third act really kicks in and is a lot of fun to watch. But Rampant. If it's in your area, I personally, for me, I definitely highly recommend this movie. Definitely check it out, especially if you're a fan of genre films, and especially genre mashup films. It definitely is something different that I don't think we've seen in this way before. So pretty cool.
All right, wife Dork.
Yes.
How was your weekend, Dork?
My weekend, Dork, was wonderful as always. Brad and I actually took the opportunity to rewatch Suspiria, so it had its wide release this week, and I remember coming out of the screening at Fantastic Fest a little dazed by it. I found the caricatures very cold, and then it has this, really fantastic and bloody climax.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's a spoiler, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's you know, it's called Suspiria. You imagine it's going to get wild.
Shit gets weird. Okay, shit gets weird. And I remember just like at the end of that, and we've cross-referenced all of the theaters. Like nobody clapped after that film, and you know, just the buzz around the lobby following that screening is a lot of people. Some people going, I loved it. Some people going like, I hated it. But most people going like, I don't know how to feel.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people.
Yeah.
I had initially given it a 3.5 stars just because I was so in love with the aesthetic, and like the end of the film was very crazy, and I'd never seen anything quite like it. It was like full of references, but at the same time just so purely its own. Like, you know, in the use of the grotesque, and you know,
it's not a straight up remake of Suspiria. Guadagnino refers to it as a cover of Suspiria, and I like that idea.
And I think like so on my I think what my issue was, now that I've done a rewatch, is I was still hung up on the plot of the first Suspiria, because the 77, right? 77?
Yeah.
The 77 Suspiria, there is a very different relationship between
well, the dancer Susie Bannion.
Yeah, Susie Bannion. I couldn't remember if she had the same name. Susie Bannion and the
Academy.
Supernatural forces.
Right. In the original Suspiria, it's building up to what's going on at this academy. Oh my God, it's witches.
Yeah.
Whereas in this Suspiria, the film starts off and it's like, yeah, it's witches.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was kind of waiting for a turn, like a turn in Susie, where, you know, like, I don't know. I was waiting for it to turn into the 77 Suspiria. And on this second watch, and it's like one of those movies where you just feel everything like infused with meaning. And as a watcher, I like to watch for clues. And Luca Guadagnino loves to do this thing where he'll just take like a static shot of like a corner.
So many inserts.
Or a static shot of like some stuff on a table, you know, and I'm sure it has meaning in and of itself and an aesthetic choice, but I was going like, how is this going to help me solve the witches? So that first time through, I was really trying to do a lot of math, like plot math, as I was watching this film. And the second time through, I really allowed it to just kind of wash over me. And like when you understand exactly where Susie is going and how she ends up, it kind of like frees you of the suspense in kind of a liberating way, where you can just purely enjoy everything that's going on.
And Susie is Dakota Johnson's character.
Dakota Johnson, and she was my least favorite aspect of
A Bigger Splash.
A Bigger Splash. She kind of played this kind of disaffected youth, over-sexualized teen.
I liked her in that movie, though.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I liked that movie, but
she's probably not as interesting as Tilda or Ray Fiennes in that film.
Yeah, I just don't even think about like when I'm like telling a plot synopsis of that film, I don't even really bring up her character except for like it was like kind of icky.
Yeah, because she's basically a thorn in those characters' sides.
She's kind of like low key trying to F her dad, which is weird. So, but in this film, like the first time through, I was finding her kind of cold, but the second time through, knowing where she was going, I could get the subtlety and I could kind of get the richness of her performance. And there, like when she's warming up for her first audition, there is something that she does in her stretch where I'm just like, oh shit, that's the thing. Okay. You know what I mean? It was just really cool. I always loved Tilda Swinton. The first time through, there was kind of all of this like weirdness of like she's playing Dr. Klemperer, but they're saying it's this dude Lutz, and you know this. And then soon after Fantastic Fest, they're like, "What? We were saying it was Tilda all the time. It was never a secret, and everybody just be cool. And but I really enjoyed knowing that all of these different aspects of her character. And now, it's on the letterbox. She plays Madame Blanc, obviously, Dr. Klemperer as Lutz Ebersdorf, and then also she plays Mother Helena Marcos. And I think that there is something to these different aspects all coming from the same artistic entity. Yeah. I think that there is something poetic to that. I think that there's something about the story to that, this one being represents these three kinds of different sides of human and the conflict, demonic, and So I think this is definitely a movie that needs a rewatch. And I myself felt, I felt so much lighter after the rewatch. I actually bumped it a whole half a star. I mean,
Lisa was high off of the rewatch.
I was spinning out of the theater. I loved it so much.
But that crowd, similar response to Fantastic Fest in the lobby afterwards. Really? There was a lot of people going I don't know how I feel about this movie.
Okay.
What I like about this movie more than the 77 Suspiria is the dancing. There's so much more dancing. Like, the first movie takes place in a dance school and you never see anybody dance. Yeah. But the choreography in this film is everything is so hypersexualized and erotic and a little gross, which I think is Luca's thing, is what I gather. But I just loved the aesthetic of it and just how creepy it was. And I don't know, I just really dug it. And of course the Tom York score, being less distracted by every, little thing, I could really enjoy that more. So I just came away just being intoxicated by this film. I really liked it.
Similar to Lisa, I came away even more in love with this film on the second watch. If I were to re-rank my Fantastic Fest films, this would probably be number one.
Okay.
Which really floored me. Yeah.
Right.
To me, it is all about living in the movie. I love being in this environment. I love being with these characters. I love the shot choice and the composition. I love the score. I love the evolution of Susie Bannion, especially in context of knowing the ending. I'm excited to watch it for a third time. It's just growing, and it's a movie that I'm excited to converse about online. I'm really enjoying reading the think pieces and reviews spinning around this film. And I love the negative takes. I love the love takes. It's just such a rich, that's the word. It's a rich movie going experience that I truly appreciate. And its greatest hindrance is the fact that it's called Suspiria. But at the same time, I love that it's also called Suspiria. It truly feels like a remake in the way that The Thing is a remake or The Fly is a remake. Yeah. It's doing something totally different than its original source material, and I dig that.
Yeah.
I also found myself getting more into the other women, like the other teachers, and how they interacted with each other. And I can't even name them by name because there's so many of them and I don't want to,
Right. But knowing how the film ends and where certain teachers fall on certain sides of the divide.
And where they're trying to influence Madame Blanc or where they're trying to influence each other.
You're right. They're very engaging on that rewatch, watching the small little actions of these women. It's pretty cool.
Y'all have sold me on a rewatch sooner than later. I was planning on seeing it again, but hearing you two talk about it, especially you, Lisa, I'm looking forward to seeing it now more than I was before.
Yeah.
All right, Brad, how was your week in Dork?
I had a great week in Dork.
Yep.
The movie I want to focus on doesn't come out until the 16th of November, but I had an opportunity to check it out at home and an opportunity to talk with the cast and the filmmaker. It's The Long Dumb Road, which had a pretty successful run at Sundance earlier this year. It's directed by Hannah Fidel, and it stars Tony Revolori from Spider-Man Homecoming and the Grand Budapest Hotel, and Jason Mantzoukas from How Did This Get Made? It's a road trip movie. Tony Revolori is leaving his home in Texas to go to Los Angeles to art school, and he wants to experience the real world, the people of the earth. Obviously, a very naive and privileged youth. He gets out in his car. His car conks out on the side of the road, so he has to walk to the nearest gas station. And as he's approaching the gas station, there is Jason Mantzoukas screaming at his boss, saying, you don't need me, that's fine, go F yourself, blah, blah, blah. I'm the greatest mechanic in this town anyway. And as Tony Revolori approaches him, Mantzoukas goes, what do you need, kid? He's like, oh, I'm looking for mechanics. Like, you found the best mechanic in Texas.
Yeah.
Take me to your car. And he goes to his car, helps him out. And Revolori's like, well, I could pay you some money if that's okay. He's like, actually, I need a ride. Can you take me to the next town? And that one short trip to the next town leads into, I'm joining you on this crusade across America to Los Angeles. Let's do it together.
Yeah.
And the movie is so damn funny.
Yeah.
Mantzoukas is great in the film. He's this agent of chaos, totally disrupting Revolori's idea of what, a road trip symbolizing growth should be.
Yeah.
And he wants to, assign all this wisdom to this drifter character. But he's a maniac, and he has a maniac in the car, and they work so well together. Mantzoukas, I mean, if you're at all familiar with his work in Darren's favorite movie, Dirty Grandpa, or The House, or the How Did This Get Made podcast, his energy is infectious.
Yeah.
And when he's talking, you never want him to stop talking.
Yeah.
He consumes the film.
Yeah.
And trapping him in this tiny little car with Tony Revolori and just seeing them bounce off each other, it's a true delight. And like early on in the film, after he fixes the problem with the kid's engine, Tony Revolori, he's the artist, he's a photographer. So he's taking all the shots of real America. And so he takes a photo of Mantzoukas fixing his car. He's like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm a photographer. I hope you don't mind if I take your photo. He's like, no, man, that's cool. That's cool. And then, he does like, and poses for Revolori. And he gets done posing and he goes like, all right, man, what's your philosophy? And Revolori's like, what do you mean? He's like, you're an artist, man. What's your philosophy? What's the point to your art? And the kid's just like, I don't know. And that's what this movie's about. It's about him getting to LA and figuring out his philosophy as an artist and as a human being, and how Mantzoukas is either going to shape that or not. Along the way, there's all kinds of characters they run into, like Ron Livingston. Ron Livingston, he starts off one way, he goes somewhere completely different. Yeah. And I really appreciated that about his cameo. Taissa Farmiga, Vera Farmiga's younger sister. Yeah. She pops up as a character for a little bit. Grace Gummer has an amazing monologue as one of their rides on their journey. So I highly recommend this film. It's going to play select theaters, but it's really going to be a VOD movie, which is unfortunate because, I think it's a great theatrical watch. And
when does it come out?
November 16th. Damn it. Okay. It's good. And Darren, as a Mantzoukas fan, you're going to love it.
Yes.
And so I talked to Mantzoukas and Revolori and Hannah Fidel. I'm going to take those three conversations, squish it into one interview, and that'll come out not this week, but next week.
Can you give us a little taste? What's one thing you learned?
Mantzoukas he's the charming rapscallion you want him to be. Yeah. He was very, very kind, very funny, very funny. Hannah Fidel, she did not want to make another dour movie. This is her third film. She's done some, human relationship dramas before this, and post-Trump's America. She just wanted to have fun on set.
Yeah.
And she got this story from, oh gosh, the guy who edited Moonlight. What is his name? Nathan something. He told her this story about picking up a hitchhiker in Texas one day and driving to LA with this homeless man. And Hannah Fidel's like, that's a wild story. I want to make that into a movie. And so her and her writing partner, Carson, what's his name? Carson Mell, I want to say. I'm a terrible person. Carson Mell. They made a short film. Carson Mell actually played the Richard character, the Drifter character, and they got their idea of how they wanted to do it. The short film hasn't been released yet. They took that as their starting point, and she was really interested in not having, two white dudes on the road again. We've seen that story so many times. So she really thought that Revelori and Mantzoukas bring a point of view that you do not see in this fairly cliche story that often, and she's damn right. I mean, they're so wonderful together.
Yeah.
And my conversation with Tony Revolori is he was just so excited to be trapped in this car with Mantzoukas. And one of my favorite tidbits about this film is when they were cast, they didn't know each other. So Mantzoukas and Revolori went and did an escape room together. And that's how they met. They met right before the escape room. They entered the escape room, and it was a prison setting, so they had to bust out of jail together. And they survived. They succeeded, and they didn't hate each other by the end of it. So they knew they were going to have a good time.
That's cool as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So highly recommend The Long Dumb Road.
All right. Damn, I want to see that movie so bad.
You're going to love it. Everybody at this table is going to love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, man, I hope I get to see it theatrically. That would make my day.
I'm guessing it's going to play at AMC Hoffman. We went and saw Bodied. AMC Hoffman gets a lot of these VOD movies.
Yeah,
and,
which is cool.
It's like, I know Bodied's a YouTube movie, but that should be in a theater with a crowd. You need a crowd to watch that movie with.
Yeah,
absolutely. And when we saw it, it was like, 20 people? And it was a solid crowd.
Yeah, because it was a smaller theater. So, I mean, that back section was pretty full. And then it was scattered in the front. So it was a pretty nice.
But it was in Theater 18, which is the smallest theater at the AMC Hoffman.
Yeah. Oh, that's where I saw it today.
Yeah. And I'm happy that we got to see it with that crowd. But, not to brag about Fantastic Fest anymore that we do on this podcast. But when we saw it at Fantastic Fest with a crowd of 200 people, it's a totally different experience. It's electric.
Yeah.
And I would want to watch The Long Dumb Road with other people to laugh at the absurdity on screen.
Yeah.
It's just a different experience, especially with comedy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
You're sitting at home with your bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah.
And you'll laugh and you'll chuckle. But I'm not eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Lisa. I saw your face.
I just got really sad because I just really wanted some Cinnamon Toast
Me
Crunch.
too.
It's not part of our diet, Lisa.
Yeah, I know.
No.
But you're right. Comedy is very infectious. It goes back to the homework that you gave me for What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
or
yeah.
even you, Alicia, gave me that.
And you rejected it because you were alone.
Yeah, because it's one of those type. But then actually, when we came back and talked about it the next week on the podcast, every time I would go back and recall that film, I recalled it very fondly and thought it was very funny. But just the experience of watching it in my living room by myself was just completely different than how you guys experienced it with a crowd. So, yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying about having that crowd experience.
All right. From my week in Dork, I saw Body, like Brad mentioned. Again, I caught it with my coworker Tim. He's also a fan of battle rap. He's actually the only other person I can talk to when I'm at work about it. So I caught it with him. I also saw Bohemian Rhapsody. We're going to talk about that in our review cast, so stay tuned for that. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is, actually, seeing Bodied again. Brian, because you just saw it for the first time, and you responded really positively to it. Did you want to add anything? Did you want to chime in?
I know you guys were hyping it up a lot, and I didn't know kind of what to make of what the movie was going to be about. But it was great watching it with Brad, and more so really just kind of talking about the film with you, Brad, because it's such a dense film. It's so much going on. thematically in that movie that it speaks on so many different social commentaries and social themes, even outside of the movie just being so entertaining. But I love the characters. I loved just and what it's saying about just the idea of political correctness, and where that line is, and how far we can kind of push that line of political correctness, and how it looks at it on a grander scheme as far as trying to deconstruct what is right and wrong. And I don't know, it's interesting to see that, and of course the whole thing with cultural appropriation and him taking this obsession with rap battling, and to see where the character of Adam goes by the end of this film. I don't want to give too much away, but it's such a fascinating film that I don't know. Having a conversation with Brad, talking about like where cinema is going, and having these type of conversations in our movies now, specifically with the movies that we have seen this year, and hopefully moving forward, and even in some of our mainstream movies, it's a conversation I think a lot of people want to have and need to have. And I mean, and again, just outside of that, just how wildly entertaining the movie is, and it's such a crowd pleasing movie. I really enjoyed that.
The only thing I'd add to that is it doesn't offer answers.
Yeah.
You know, so when the film ends, that was the starting point of our conversation. Brian is like, how should we feel about this?
I know, because I felt the same. You told me you kind of had the same feeling the first time you saw it, and seeing it the second time, I guess you kind of came to terms with a little how you kind of felt a little bit more
with
about
that lack of answer.
Yeah, because I wanted to see, not to give anything away, I wanted to see a reconciliation to some degree, but I think the movie is speaking to, like you were saying, is speaking to something bigger than that. And it's trying to make a bigger statement than just what these two particular characters are maybe going through at that particular time. But I don't know, man. It's a fascinating film, and I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, I learned a lot, and you know, I'm entering into the battle rap scene now.
Nice.
I think it's a good call on my part.
Don't do that, B. Actually, you know what, B? You know what? If you want to do that, I support you 100%. I actually do. I actually do support you 100%.
Well, he actually doesn't want to do battle rap.
Oh man!
But I on the drive home, I called Darren to tell him like how much I loved the movie, and we were talking about it on my drive back home, and he said something that I thought was, and it mentioned it in the movie, like, you know, the whole idea of like the Jedi and the Padawan and whatnot, and it kind of has that Obi-Wan Anakin story to it, you know, like someone who's that obsessed that they do end up going towards the dark side. And hopefully that wasn't a spoiler. If it was, I'm sorry.
Is it a spoiler? Is it a spoiler?
Obvious.
But I thought that was actually a perfect way to describe that relationship and the movie and that character. I was like, yeah, he is kind of gone to the dark side.
To me, what makes the message of that film muddled, more than even the lack of answers, is that there's kind of a sheen of artifice over the entire film, even in the just regular the performances.
You mean stuff like where you can see inside Adam's mind, and he can like open up the personal files,
but
and things
even
like that.
just like the color saturation and the and you know, and the performances are
especially from the girlfriend.
Yeah, they're just a
the
little
dialogue
bit
and the
larger
stuff.
than life.
Yeah.
And to me,
Cartoonish. A lot of the characters do venture into cartoonish. The girlfriend being like the major one.
Yeah, and to me that confuses everything, because you go like, well, is this real or is this not real?
And even with the battle rap, right? So when, like, if you real battle rap performances don't play out or they don't look how they look in the film. They don't even sound the same way. The way that the battle rappers rap don't even sound the same. So I agree with you, Lisa. Coupled with the performance of the girlfriend, and even just between the girlfriend and Adam, their acting has that heightened reality. But when Ben and Adam are having a conversation, and it's a serious conversation, it's a different tonally. It feels different. It feels different. Yeah, there's a tonal difference between Adam's interaction with Ben and then with Adam's interaction with his girlfriend.
Do you think that's done purposefully though? Because it feels like they do it in a way to kind of separate those two worlds. I don't know if that's done purposely by Joseph Kahn, the director, or if that's.
Well, I mean, I would assume that part of it has to do with just the subject matter of those interactions. You know, just what Ben and Adam are talking about, and yeah, I don't know. It's weird, right? But so as much as I enjoyed Body, it is a movie that, like Joseph Kahn's other film, Detention, like that movie has so much shit going on in it, and like it's almost like you're just throwing a bunch of shit at the wall to see what sticks. But at the same time, there is an overarching theme, and at the end, I don't know, you kind of get the bigger picture. But I don't know, like I enjoyed my rewatch of Body, but that's not really what I want to talk about for my weekend dork. And I'm going to talk about it real quick, the real thing, because I've only played it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Anyway, I want to talk about, for my weekend dork, Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2, for those who are unaware, is the sequel to a video game. It's a video game sequel to a video game called Red Dead Redemption. They came out a few years ago, and Red Dead Redemption was, and the sequel is a game set in the Old West at the turn of the century, if I'm not mistaken. Well, the Red Dead Redemption 2 takes place at the turn of the century, if I'm not mistaken. So firstly, about the release of the sequel, I just read not too long ago that, because it came out this past Friday, and it had the biggest opening in the entertainment industry of all time, of anything ever released, the album, a movie, video game, for a 3-day period. Currently, Grand Theft Auto 5 has the biggest at over several $1 billion or whatever, profit-wise. But this one holds the record for biggest opening in the entertainment industry, which I found surprising because I was not aware that there was a huge fandom for Red Dead Redemption.
Oh man, yeah, they're definitely.
Because I didn't even play the first game, right? So
shame on you.
Saw the trailer for the second game, realized and found out that the story takes place prior to the first game. So I was like, okay, I don't have to play through the first game to play the second game. So anyway, I want to talk about this because I'm not going to give too much away, because this game, if you sit down and play the campaign straight through, it's a 60-hour campaign.
After you've spent 12 hours downloading it.
Right. Oh my God, that's just nuts. Literally nuts. It literally was 12 hours. Anyway, so the game is large, but I've only been playing it for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, right? But in this opening 2 hours, so the game opens up and it looks like the Hateful Eight. Like you're in the up in the mountains, and it's a whiteout storm, and it literally looks like the Hateful Eight. To so much so that you're on a wagon in a caravan, and you make your way to this it's like a cabin thing, but it's like Minnie's haberdashery, and the way that the little smaller outhouse is set up, and in the way that the barn is set out a few feet, a couple hundred yards away from the main structure. Like it literally looks like that, right? But anyway, what's of note to me, coupled with the opening numbers that the game did as far as sales wise, is like when you load the game up and you start to play it. And I probably said this on the podcast before, but video games have come such a long way. So much so that when this game starts, it doesn't, if you were to walk in and you didn't know I was playing a video game, you would think I just started a movie. It has an opening credit sequence that is like the opening credit sequence of a movie, not a video game. You don't have like a start menu and press 1, player 1, player. You don't have that. Like there's an opening title card that talks about the setting of the story and how the country was in transition at this moment, and just the font and the graphics. It's like this old timey. It's just like this old timey theme, and then the game opens up. The voice acting, the character, the motion tracking for the facial animations when these characters are talking and emoting. Like the casting. So the story is about there's a guy who, from my understanding, in the first game is, I guess, the bad guy. It's the guy that you're hunting in the first game. So in this game, it's about the days leading up to.
So in the first game, spoilers for that, it ends with the hero dying and then his son growing up and then going off. So this is the son now?
No. This takes place before that. This is so the guy that in the first game, the guy that dies, the main guy, whoever he's supposed to be going after, like the main, his main antagonist. The game that I'm playing is the prequel story about that main antagonist, how he got to that point.
That's bizarre because we know that that's not going to end well because that guy's going to die.
I don't know that, but the game, but we're not really following that guy. But I'm in his gang. The main character is in his gang.
Got it.
But the way that the I'm talking about this because the way that characters are introduced in this game, side characters or characters that are in your gang, because you're a part of an outlaw gang. The way that they're introduced and how the gang dishes out story details and background details about each character. This is a game where not only do you have to your energy doesn't replenish. Like in a normal game, you get hit and then you don't take any damage for a while, don't move, your energy recharges, or you pick up a health pack or whatever. Where in this game, like if you want to replenish your energy, you have to feed yourself. If you're running and you're running out of stamina, you have to give yourself some energy or eat something. If you want coffee, you have to brew the coffee. You have to actually brew the coffee and then make your character drink it. So there's all these little small things that are like as far as attention to detail to make you feel more immersed into the world. And like the Western setting, like I'm not a fan of. I've said that on the podcast before because just how like you look at Deadwood and you go, man, like it was the worst of times back in those days. I do not want to be in those times. I don't want to populate that period of time. But with this game, like it's astonishing, like the level of detail with just the wildlife, like in the Wild West, like where you are. So the game opens in like the Hateful Eight, so it's a snowstorm. But after the opening act, there's a time jump, and now you're on the open in the West, and there's green, there's dirt, there's mountains everywhere, and it's such a lush, lived-in world. And I don't know, I just really like because I have to if I'm going to play this game and beat it from beginning to end, it's a 60-hour campaign. That means I'm going to spend all this time with these characters and they're characters that haven't even been introduced yet that I'm going to meet. So like your gang, at some point, you're going to lose some of them, and they're going to die. And when they do, because the way that the game set up the narrative and how it dishes out exposition and backstory for each of these characters, you get to feel like I've only played 2 hours and I'm already gotten like close to like the guy who's supposed to be the guy who's part of the gang the longest, like the oldest guy who knows the most, but he's the coolest. Like in Tom Sizemore character in Saving Private Ryan, Mike, like how he's been with the captain the longest and he's respected. So there's a guy like that in the gang that already have only played it 2 hours, and the game doesn't specifically focus on that guy, but I'm already feeling like, yo, I want to keep this dude around. Like I like this guy on my team. And so I don't know. I just find it really impressive that the state of video games today has changed so much. You do have your games that are for quick bursts of entertainment, like on your phone and stuff like that. But then you have games like this that the dialogue's not corny, it's not tongue in cheek, it's not campy, they're not excessively cursing like in Grand Theft Auto, just for shock value or whatever. Like it's a real script. Like there are voice actors who are acting out a real script, and they're giving these characters like real emotions. And then there's smaller things gameplay wise that pepper the game that just fill you in when you're not doing a story specific moment that just adds layers to the world that you're playing in. And so I don't know, I just was dumbfounded like while I was playing that game, and because of just how much has gone into it in so much detail, and how entertaining it is. And like I said, I've only played it like for an hour. So I'm looking forward to, digging into that some more, finding out the story, because the actual story of the game hasn't even been revealed to me yet. So I'm just excited to play that. When we come back from the break, we will be talking about the new biopic about Queen and Freddie Mercury, Bohemian Rhapsody, directed in part by Bryan Singer. And who was the other guy, Brad?
Dexter Fletcher.
And Dexter
Not
Fletcher.
credited.
Uncredited. Yeah. So, when we come back from the break, we will be giving our thoughts, doing the good, the bad, the ugly for Bohemian Rhapsody.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time for the review cast for Bohemian Rhapsody.
Mamma mia, mamma mia.
Mamma mia.
Let me go. Figaro, I don't know. Higher,
I'm just a
higher.
poor boy, nobody loves me.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family.
His life from this monstrosity.
Do-get. That's what piano
Easy
sounds
come,
like.
easy go. You let me go. Bismillah.
No!
We will not let him go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Brian, start us off with the good for Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, that is part of my good right there.
Our singing?
Yeah, there you go. We're the new Queen 2.0.
Hey.
But I really, really dug the concert performances and a lot of the stage performances in this movie. Seeing the band come together and how they created the song Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, you get a lot of that throughout this film. I don't want to dip into my negative, but just seeing a lot of like the creation of these songs, like "We Will Rock You" and stuff like that. I mean, we knew this was going to be part of the film, like the creation of a lot of these songs that have become a staple of Queen. But I mean, when the film opens up, it opens up with it's kind of bookend with the Live Aid concert. So you see the beginning right before they go on stage, and then we go back and then we kind of tell the story of Freddie Mercury and his rise to fame and all the trials and tribulations of him going through his journey. And then we ultimately culminate into the concert performance at Live Aid. And I don't know, I just really dug it. I really dug a lot of that stuff. And then also just a performance by Rami Malek. I said this in my review on Letterboxd. I think the first half of the film, it feels like a lot of these actors are play acting, and it feels like Rami Malek, and I don't know it had to do with the fake teeth, but to me it just felt like it was kind of stunting his performance. But as the movie kind of went along, especially in the second act and the third act, I really, really was able to kind of get invested and feel the sympathy for his character. And I do that a lot to the performance that he was able to give, not just in the stage performances, but also in some of the quieter moments with Mary, who's played by Lucy Boynton. I thought they had some really, really good scenes together. But that's mostly my good that I have for Bohemian Rhapsody.
All right. Wife Dork.
Yes.
Any good?
My good was the use of the original masters of Freddie Mercury's voice. Freddie Mercury had such a tremendous talent, unmatched, and you know, he had some piano training growing up, from what I could gather from Wikipedia. He had some piano training growing up, but no, like, real voice training that Wikipedia told me about.
Yeah.
But just the fact that he could go from crooner to rock guy, and I came across an article that has been reiterated in like several articles, like trying to get to the bottom of what made Freddie Mercury's voice so spectacular, and comparing it directly to opera singers' voices, which I thought was a little bizarre, considering that that's not really what he was going for. But they got it down to, well, his rate of vibrato is a little bit like the like wavering between pitches, which is vibrato comes from various different mechanisms, but like in opera there's like a standardized rate of vibrato that you want, and his was like slightly faster than that. But to me, I think it comes from so much more than that. You could tell just by the way he sounded, he was such a student of music, and his appreciation of music went beyond one genre, and he wanted to do and represent and be part of it all. Like he was just so tremendous, and the Masters have kind of had this life of their own since his passing, and for example, like at least around like singer circles, I don't know if you guys have heard it, but they, just the Masters of Under Pressure with Freddie Mercury singing with David Bowie, just a cappella, and hearing those two just iconic voices. And then, you hear the Masters of singers today, and they're so tremendously auto-tuned. Yeah. And like just Freddie Mercury's vocals were just so tremendously exposed and so perfect. Like there was no correcting anything that he did. Whatever he did, it was just perfect and spontaneous and beautiful. So that's my good. The use of the Masters, the Freddie Mercury Masters.
All right, B.
And there was also, sorry, I do this every episode and it annoys Brad. I think of one more thing. They did have a guy who did some extra vocals. Like I assumed the vocals of Freddie Mercury warming up. And that guy's name is Dennis O'Sullivan. And like, to me, I wasn't sure. I was like, do they also have Masters of Freddie Mercury warming up? Like, but no, and this guy was approved by the surviving Queen members.
Whoa.
That guy's voice. So there's extra vocals by that guy. So congrats to that guy. Nice. I will not interrupt you again. I should. I'm just going to crawl under the table. Don't look at me.
All right, B. The good.
Music. They're a really good band.
Damn,
and
man.
I came out of this film wanting to listen to their music and watch Live Aid.
Definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like biopics as a general rule.
Really?
I've never been a fan of them because they tend to have the same rise, especially musical biopics.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it specifically musical?
For the most, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But there is like an element to them that is intriguing. Getting to watch Rami Malek be Freddie Mercury, pretend, have fun, to play, and watching other actors play in those real life roles. There's an enjoyment to that.
Yeah.
When done well.
Damn.
So what are you saying? Oh,
that's my good.
Is that a to be continued?
I'm just saying.
Oh, you finished?
What is that? I hear the clatter of a gauntlet thrown upon.
This movie doesn't even deserve a gauntlet.
Ooh,
damn. All right,
we'll get to that.
For my good, I always love seeing Tom Hollander and stuff now.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know why, because when my first exposure to him is from Pirates of the Caribbean 2.
Yeah,
and he was such a dick in that movie,
and I hated him so much.
But like now, when I see him, I'm like, it's that dick from Pirates of the Caribbean 2. I love that guy.
And there's a good thing about this movie. He's good. He's good.
That's why I brought him up. He's my good.
Play?
Yeah,
Miami.
Oh, nice.
He's from In the Loop and Gosford Park, and
he's got a friendly face.
Yeah,
I'm always because I've only seen him in Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm always expecting
he's like
him
the
to.
English guy.
Yeah,
the English guy. There's so many English guys, Lisa.
You know what
I know
the
which one
really
you meant.
he smells like Earl Grey in that movie.
Oh, all right.
Bergamot.
I do also like what else? I like.
He's the bad guy from Hannah.
I don't even remember him in that movie.
Oh, the blonde hair?
Nope.
He's the main villain in Hannah.
Oh shit, that's him?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I like another good of the film is the fact that like I didn't realize, Brian, you mentioned this too. Like, but you watch this movie and you realize, God damn, like they made that song too. Exactly. They had that song as a hit and that song as a hit. Like I didn't realize my first introduction to Queen was Another One Bites the Dust when I was a kid because my father loved that song so much, and he would play it all the time. And you gotta listen to this song. It's Another One Bites the Dust. And so, just watching the movie again, I didn't get to see it, and I wanted to see it in an Adobe Prime auditorium, but there wasn't a showtime that lined up with my schedule. But even in a regular auditorium, the concert sequences and the sequences, where they're playing their music, just still, even without Adobe Prime auditorium, still just like crank so hard in that theater. And that another good is the scene when they're doing "We Will Rock You," and I know that it's possible, almost highly likely, that the way that they came up with these songs in the movie was a fictionalized a dramatization of the actual way that they came about. But I have to say, because of the songs that they were creating, I still found enjoyment out of watching those scenes, even though I knew that that's probably not how that song came about. But those songs are just so iconic. I don't know, but prior to this movie, I guess this movie, I would say the best thing about this movie, for me, unfortunately, it took this movie just to put into perspective just how wide a range of hits they had. I know Queen, I know Freddie Mercury, but I just never stopped to think about how much of an impact they had in music. In music. So I'll say that's my good as well.
Yeah, that kind of goes to my good as well, because like I said, just watching this movie, I never knew all the songs that were coming up. I'm like, oh wow, they did this, they did that, and I mean, even the song that plays at the end of the credits, I can't remember the name of it, but I love that song. I used to listen to it all the time. It was just amazing just to see a lot of that stuff, and it felt like the crowd I saw it with felt like a rock concert. There had to have been a group of 20 plus people that filled the theater. And during the Live Aid, I mean, they were clapping, they were singing with the songs. It felt like a concert in there, and that made that experience of watching Bohemian Rhapsody that much more fun. And I guess that kind of goes into my good as well.
And goes to what we were talking about on the Weekend Dork with the Long Dumb Road. You have the right crowd, and it can elevate a movie.
Absolutely.
All right, the bad, Brian.
I don't know. The bad for me just kind of goes to the whole thing that we've talked about before, and what Brad was mentioning as far as with biopics in general. And this one kind of follows suit, where it just feels generic. It feels safe. It feels like they don't really give me anything new or different that I couldn't learn.
Feels phony.
That I couldn't learn from looking up on Wikipedia. It feels like it's really playing it safe. And the fact that the remaining living members, Brian May and Roger Taylor, were producers on the film. Now, I don't know Queen's story. I didn't grow up loving them as a band, so I can't really speak to the authenticity of everything that has gone on in their career.
But you know what bullshit smells like.
Yeah, and it feels like because they are part of the film that they're making themselves look a certain way in the movie. And you, like you say, you could definitely kind of smell that BS a mile away. And if you take the concert scenes out of it, it just feels bland. It feels like it doesn't add anything new to the conversation or anything new that I couldn't find out on my own. And then also with that, something else I just thought about, Mike Myers in this movie.
Oh, God.
I mean,
it took a moment for me to realize, why is he who is that, and why do they look like that?
So corny.
He looked like he had scabies or something.
Yeah.
So corny.
And I hate the fact that they had that line that he says about Bohemian Rhapsody, where he's basically referencing Wayne's World. Yeah. Where it's you don't expect kids to be listening to this driving down the streets, bumping their head. And I was like, come on, man. It's just too meta.
And then at the end, during the Live Aid concert,
when they cut back to him,
you're like, we are the champions, and they cut to the line, you are the losers. They cut to him. I was like, oh,
that was horrible, but I would have appreciated more Mike Myers type choices, because at least he was freaking different.
True.
Maybe. If we were going to go full on nutty.
That's a good point. But you're right. It just feels like the fact that the movie's playing it safe, and then you take this one character and just have him go so far.
Well, and the fact that like they really tried to make Freddie Mercury seem like a victim of circumstance, in that there was a villain of the piece.
Oh, Paul.
This manager Paul guy.
Played by Alan Leach.
And like he seems to be like kind of like the devil on Freddie's shoulder.
Well, his introduction in the film, right? He's the like accolade of Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. Aidan Gillen.
Aidan Gillen, yeah. Peter Baelish.
He's like, oh, and this is my buddy Paul. He's gonna help you guys. And when they cut to Paul, he's like, and then Rami and him share a look, like, ooh, that's more than just like a man looking at a man. Ooh.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
And so they just had this Paul character kind of leading, like, Freddie starts one party at his house when he's having kind of a lonely moment. And then everything after that was just like Paul inviting people to his house and like Freddie Mercury just going, oh shucks, I guess this is what we're doing. Like, and he just didn't seem like the type of person to just go with the flow.
Well, to be so ineffectual.
Yeah.
Like, he's this musical genius, but he has no agency in his own movie.
And even in the scene when he's a closeted homosexual, and we have to consider the time that this is happening, and it's very.
And his bandmates claim that they didn't know.
Right, and his parents are also very conservative. He's a child of immigrants. He was raised Zoroastrian, and so there's all of this social pressure on him to stay in the closet and try to live a straight lifestyle. And so he gets married, and he marries someone who becomes a lifelong friend of his, and that is fact according to the movie. But I believe it.
And
it's fact. It's fact that he stayed friends with this woman his entire life. But in the scene, she gets him to confess, like shakes it out of him, like she gets him to say, well, I'm afraid I'm bisexual. And she's like, you're not bisexual, you are gay, Freddie, you're gay. And then and they have this like kind of she's having this little melodramatic moment, and then she has to say out loud, and it isn't even your fault. And I'm just like, is that line even really necessary? And is that something like a woman in the 70s, like, is that the kind of thing that she would even be able to say after this huge, like, so, like, but it was just like this moment of going like, no one is to blame here, you know what I mean? Like, and not that I'm saying that there is people to blame, but I'm just saying that that's just not a real emotion where you can like have this devastation and not be looking for someone to blame. I don't know. It goes back to your point of it's just a little fakey fake.
Yeah. And just to quote one of Brad's lines, it feels very movie, especially in the way that they try to show his homosexuality with that one scene, which was just so poorly done.
TV movie.
Was like the
at
scene
the truck stop
where he's on the phone with Mary, and it's like it's fading back and forth in between.
He catches the eye of that trucker in the cap and the big mustache, and he goes into the men's room, and the men's room door closes, and close up on the word men.
I know. Yeah.
So dumb.
Yeah. It just doesn't work.
But then, even in that moment, the movie cuts away.
Yeah. So and from what I hear about Freddie Mercury is the fact that he, outside of like his stage presence, he was a very reserved person. So the way they kind of portrayed him, like, at those parties and stuff like that, a lot of people say that's really not how he was off stage. He was very reserved, a quiet person, and the movie doesn't really portray it. Now, I can't really speak to the authenticity of that, but the movie portrays him kind of differently from that. And I think that's maybe a lot of people's criticisms about how he was portrayed as well.
If you're going to do a biopic, like, the best biopic in my estimation is Amadeus. in the idea that they just kind of lambast him as a person, and and just use the circumstances, and just create kind of like a fan fiction theory about like, okay, well, he had these circumstances, what could he have been like?
Right. I mean, and Amadeus is total fiction, but compelling as hell.
Yeah. And I think that like just infusing a little bit more drama into the life of someone who was completely fascinating,
like Abraham Lincoln Vampire.
Yeah, something like that.
I want to see something I didn't know about somebody, and I didn't know Abraham Lincoln was fucking hunting vampires.
You do now, though.
Exactly. A great biopic.
Yeah, amazing.
My last bad is the visual effects in the Live Aid. Now, I love the Live Aid performance, but when you see a lot of those aerial shots, you could definitely tell where they just kind of like cut and paste the crowd in certain places.
Damn
and then,
you, Lord of the Rings!
It was just like a Microsoft flood fill people.
Yeah. And then and then when you see like you get the from the stage and you see Queen, the back shot of Queen looking out into the crowd, you can see the green screen.
There's that shot that you keep seeing on every review with the Live Aid crowd behind them, and as they're walking off stage, like that shot is like in every review, and it's such a terrible composite.
Yeah,
it looks like,
picture,
but
it was
that one.
And Rami Malek is giving like an what did I do? Look to the camera.
I mean, it looked great in the trailer, and like that one shot where it kind of like it's almost like the sky camera that goes through the crowd. Like that shot looks great, but like I thought it looked pretty good. But like with the aerial shots from above, looking down at the stadium, I was like, ooh. But even with that being said, man, I thought that Live Aid performance it packed an emotional punch for me. Just being able to, and again, it was probably the crowd that I saw it with,
especially
also.
Since they completely jam it up with emotion that was not there during the original Live Aid. The fact that he knew he had AIDS at that point, but he had not been diagnosed in real life until after that concert. So none of that emotion is genuine.
Yeah. So there you go. So maybe that's part of my bad.
All right, wife dork.
Yes.
Your bad.
My bad is actually the Live Aid performance,
Really?
and here's my reasons. Like, to me, the video of Freddie Mercury at Live Aid is available.
It's on YouTube. Yeah.
It's on YouTube, and
there's an entire concert film.
And there's an entire concert film. And they show, like, they don't do the whole 20 minutes, but they show, like, 2/3 of the concert of Rami Malek doing, like, shot for shot everything that Freddie Mercury did, singing with mouthing with Freddie Mercury's voice. But the thing is, like, going back to that emotionality, like, when Freddie Mercury was doing that performance, those moves came from his heart. They were not choreographed. Like, they are what he did in that moment, overwhelmed by that crowd and so happy to be back with his friend. Like, and they were spontaneous.
Yeah.
And to me, to see Rami Malek, the beautiful man that he is.
Try to recreate that.
Exquisite, wide-set eyes. I'm sorry, I'm about to write a poem. But anyway, like as well as he did, like, it's just not going to be as good as Freddie Mercury doing it. And to me, I think it would have even been better if they had, used shots of no, not using shots of the actual thing, like, but more like you can have shots from the Live Aid, like, look, they're doing Live Aid, but maybe cut in other things. Maybe we could see scenes from later, like the end of Freddie Mercury's life, or maybe a little bit more of his relationship with Jim Hutton, who, like, to me, like, within the context of the movie, it looks like, well, I'm about to die, so I better at least show my parents that I've found someone and that I'm happy. Now, according to the script at the end of the film, like, they did go on to have a relationship, but like the way it's just like, okay, well, I had a conversation with this guy.
Yeah.
He seemed like a good English boy. let's scoop him up and let's introduce him to my parents like he means something to me. It just had like this weird reverse beard situation to me. I thought it was very strange.
Yeah, and they didn't give that character enough to
and
really
so
invest into it. Yeah.
I think that they could have used, like, I don't mind them using the Live Aid performance as this kind of emotional peak of the film, but to just be looking at Rami Malek doing a damn good impression of Freddie Mercury, I think it's almost like it's almost like just like stealing, like just stealing what he did on stage and just kind of copying like what Freddie Mercury did. Like it's not like a true like it really goes back to when we did our Fistful of Biopics. It's really just an impression, and it like to me it like. Especially like going like the next morning I went and I watched the actual Live Aid, and to see that even the camera work is just the same camera work they did.
Yeah, they're just recreating. It's mimicry.
Yeah, and I don't know. It just like I'm impressed. Like wow, they got the right number of Pepsi cups, and he punches his fists just like Freddie Mercury did. But like the fact that it was just so much of the film.
Yeah. And that was my worry too, I guess, because I haven't seen the Live Aid performance from 1985, but
and they use the masters, like it's the same vocal. They use the masters from Live Aid, so it's like the exact same vocal.
Yeah, and I heard that's on the soundtrack too, the actual Live Aid performance.
Cool.
It's actually on the soundtrack as well. But yeah, because of that, it definitely feels like they're just trying to recreate that. And I guess they wanted to keep that accurate, but you're right. I probably would have wanted to seen Rami Malek do maybe his own thing or do a different type of interpretation of that.
Or infuse or don't make us watch it. Yeah. Show a little bit of the future, cut away or something. Yeah. Or they could have ended the movie with them walking on the stage and walking off the stage and not show the performance at all. And I think that it would have, you wouldn't get to hear all of that wonderful music, which is what makes the film enjoyable is that music. But I don't know. To me, I just thought it was in poor taste.
All right. B, the bad.
I think the only thing I would add to this conversation is that at the end of the day, I don't have any further information intellectually or emotionally of who Freddie Mercury or the band Queen is based on what we see in this film. Yeah. It's so surface level. It's so flat. I felt like I just watched a long trailer for a film that I'm eventually going to see that's never going to happen. Rami Malek looks great and does a good job of mimicking Freddie Mercury. And that is fun, like I was saying in The Good. It's always fun to see somebody play around with real-life personas. But it never delves deep into who this dude was.
Exactly.
And it's really frustrating.
Exactly.
And he's a tremendous, he is, he's the kind of person who makes you curious. Who is this person?
Like, what is his process for coming up with this shit? Like, his creative process. Because that was my takeaway. Like, damn, like, if this dude is he's trying to convey these ideas to his band, does he think like this all the time? Like it, because for me, I find that type of artist fascinating, where like 24 hours a day, those things that they're passionate about cycle in and out of their thoughts to where like they have this idea to.
There's no delving into that creativity, right? So like. When they learn, when they start to put Bohemian Rhapsody together, it's because, oh, dude, I love opera. We need to do something wild and crazy. And so this is how that comes along. And Mike Myers doesn't want it to happen because he's an idiot, because he doesn't know how to have sex with his wife because he does it less than 6 minutes. And then like with Another One Bites the Dust, that's introduced because the bass player's like, hey, I got a good lick. And maybe that's how it happened. I don't know. But that's not interesting. Those are the most rudimentary superhero origin stories of those songs.
Exactly. The whole "We Will Rock You," like we have to have a chant, and so
I thought it was funny the scene in which they're recording the operatic part, "Mamma Mia," and he just kept on going to go higher, and I'm like, that's not how you compose a chord.
No.
You generally pick a pitch ahead of time.
That's how you lift Susie Banyan, Madame Blancsire. Higher.
There's another thing that those two movies have in common.
Suspiria and Bohemian Rhapsody.
Suspiria and Bohemian Rhapsody is people wearing fabulous kimonos at home. And I'm just like, I gotta get me. I want to just be in an open kimono.
I hate to break the news to you, Lisa. That's cultural appropriation.
God damn it!
Back off, white lady.
Oh.
All right.
I'm appropriating it from, I guess I'd still, if I'm appropriating it from Freddie Mercury, I would still be an appropriating. God damn it!
Yeah, sorry.
Go back to your Isle of Dogs watching, Lisa.
Oh wow. For my bad, I'm gonna say the acting that Brian mentioned in the earlier part of the film. I would say the inconsistency with the acting, the quality of acting, and also the editing of the film. It's in the first part, in the first half. There were several scenes, several occasions in the first act alone where it was jarring. Like there would be cuts that would seem like real quick inserts instead of an actual purposeful shot. And I don't know, it
was like, when Robert Rodriguez cuts to the dog in El Mariachi. Like, oh, we gotta hide that. Cut to the dog.
Yeah, so I felt like, I don't know, I heard there were some behind the scenes drama with the film, and
Bryan Singer got his ass fired.
Yeah, and the movie comes on, and I go, wait, who directed this movie again? And it wasn't. I was actually waiting for it to say directed by, because I couldn't remember. Yeah. And then when it said his name, I go, oh, okay. So then I see Bryan Singer's name, and then that first 5 or 10 minutes, I'm like, this is a ugly ass movie. Like, why does it look so amateurish? And so I immediately started thinking, man, Bryan Singer fell off, and didn't he get fired? Maybe he got fired because he was shooting it this way and they didn't like it. So it was a lot of
other reasons.
Yeah. So I just remember remarking at the direction and the editing of the film, for the first good portion of that first act. And I don't know, it just felt weird and it's unfortunate that this group, as iconic as they are, they deserve an epic.
Yeah.
Their movie, that biopic for Queen, or biopic, should be epic. Yeah. It's supposed to be, because they're who they were, who Freddie was, the music that they left behind, all of it, all of it's fitting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Someone on Twitter said, well, now that we've got this out of the way, maybe we can move on and make a real Queen film. Now, the trick is what Brian was alluding to get that music, you need to have of a lot of other people that maybe don't want to have the harsher realities exposed. Yeah. It's like that Andre Benjamin, Jimi Hendrix film, right?
Because they couldn't even use the music.
Right, because they wanted to tell an honest story about Jimi Hendrix.
Exactly.
So, can you sell as many tickets to Bohemian Rhapsody if we don't have the title song there? Yeah.
It's going to be hard because people come to these movies to hear that music.
Sure. I did.
So, yeah.
All right. Real quick, the ugly.
Ugly for me is those fake teeth.
Oh, God, that was my ugly.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lisa.
You go ahead. You can have
We can have it together. We can have it together. The ugly teeth. But I think it goes to my point about the beginning performance, the performances in the first act of the film. I think that kind of stunted Rami Malek's performance because, I don't know, just the way he was talking. And then I think they just kind of overdid it because if you look at pictures of Freddie Mercury, his teeth weren't that bad as the way they kind of made it in the film.
Here's the issue. So they even mentioned in the movie, so Freddie Mercury, I think in the movie they might have said molars, but Freddie Mercury.
No, they said incisors.
Okay, good. Okay. So he had supernumerary incisors, which meant he essentially had 4 front teeth, which they showed in the movie.
Yeah.
But they showed them straight, as if he had braces on. And
that's what's so weird about it.
So his teeth were crooked, and there were these spaces in them. And for me, that's the metaphor of this film, where they're like, okay, we'll stick to the fact that Freddie Mercury was gay and that Freddie Mercury, lived promiscuously and a really unfortunate time where nobody knew what was coming and he contracted AIDS. That was his life. and we'll give you those facts, but we will fill in all of the gaps that make Freddie Mercury who he is, the flaws that make an artist a complete person. So they took this, so they ended up giving him what just essentially looked like horse teeth, because they think that is somehow the fact that if we saw the gaps in Freddie Mercury's teeth, that we wouldn't want to look at him, and we would like him less. And I just and I just don't feel like that's true. I think that, the people we love in our lives, we love them for their flaws, and we see the beauty that's inside them.
Freddie Mercury, the real Freddie Mercury, was loved.
Be loved.
The way he looked,
exactly,
and all.
Exactly.
So,
and he was super hot.
Yeah. So I mean,
it just plays into the whole inaccuracies of the film throughout. So yeah.
All right, Brad.
So
I'm sorry, Lisa. Was that?
That was my ugly. My ugly was the teeth.
The way this film portrays his homosexuality, I find really troubling, especially as it relates to his HIV and AIDS diagnosis. It's the way you see it in this film, the tragedy of it is very much a right-wing God's wrath and punishment for his hedonism. And as Mike Ryan wrote a review of the film for Uprocks, and he said something that I thought was really interesting, and I hadn't thought about until I had read his review. But his tragic death in the 90s was a uniting moment for people to get behind the cure, to find the medical response to this epidemic that was occurring. And it takes this awful, horrendous disease and turns it into this punishment. It's really weird, especially since this film is supposed to be celebrating the life of Freddie Mercury, and I find it incredibly ugly
And bizarre. It's really bizarre. It's bizarre.
I could hear my grandparents going see, that's what happens.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right. For my ugly, I guess it's just the whatever that background drama was that caused the production of this film to become fractured and splintered, culminating in what feels like a very visually and also sometimes tonally, and I'm talking regarding acting, uneven film.
To me, do you blame the acting or do you blame the script? Because it's hard to infuse emotion into the most generic sentences ever.
Yeah.
Well, both. I mean, yeah, some of both. Just the way that it was shot, certain, I don't know, just certain line delivery was very amateurish to me, and I could before watching the film, it wasn't until after I got here and. Brad, you mentioned that there was another guy who came in who co-directed the rest of the film, but watching it, it just felt tonally uneven, and because I not tonally, but it just felt uneven, and because I was unaware that it was the product of multiple people, I just was under the impression that Bryan Singer, it was a singular person who just made a movie that in one act felt this way and looked this way. And then the next act looked another way, because it literally looked like it was shot by two different people in certain points.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the Dexter Fletcher came in and shot the last 2 weeks of production. So Bryan Singer did the majority of the film, but Dexter Fletcher did the last 2 weeks of production and then all oversaw the post-production process. So
but that could be, post-production, a lot can happen.
And a lot can happen in the post-production process, especially if he's overseeing stuff that was mainly shot by Bryan Singer, if he's putting his vision on it.
But also movies are shot out of order sometimes.
Yeah, that's true too. So I mean, we don't know what those last 2 weeks of production, had as far as what they had to film. So I don't know, but you could definitely kind of see and feel that to some degree. Yeah.
I think the movie's also very much in keeping with Bryan Singer's filmography.
Damn. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have seen Bohemian Rhapsody, and
I can agree.
This is a better movie than X-Men Apocalypse.
Just yeah.
Yeah, it is, Darren.
I can't even remember. I'm trying to remember, trying to compare movies. I got nothing. I can't even remember anything.
But if you look at those two movies side by side, it does have the same type of. It looks bland. It feels bland. Performances. I mean, you're right. I mean, Bryan
Singer's not a good filmmaker.
No.
Aw.
Damn. All
Let's
right.
hope he's not listening.
I hope he is.
Oh no.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you've seen Bohemian Rhapsody, you can hit us up on social media and let us know what you thought at ItModcast. Brian Young, what are you looking forward to this week?
This week, rewatching Overlord, and I want to see the girl in the spider's web.
Yeah.
I gotta keep thinking about the title.
The girl who kicked and set the spider's web on fire.
That movie.
Yeah, so looking forward to that.
You can find that guy at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. Wife Dork, what are you looking forward to this week?
Well, I'm still working my way through the Jess episodes.
Oh.
They've crashed the car. He's left Stars Hollow, but has he left Rory's heart? I think not. Oh yeah, she runs away to New York. I have a lot ahead of me. A lot.
Okay.
A lot. I don't know what movies are coming out.
The Grinch. You're excited about that one?
No, I'm not excited about The Grinch. The original film is perfect. The original animated film is perfect. The Jim Carrey one, not bad. Watchable.
He gives a good performance.
Watchable.
He gives a good performance.
He gives a good
Rick
performance.
Baker's suit's awesome.
Yeah.
Even the Who's are really cool to look at.
Yeah. Watchable with a capital H.
But this one has more jokes.
More jokes? Does it have more jokes?
And Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Cumberbatch as much as the next Cumberbatch, but I am just, I don't know. I'm getting the autumn movie doldrums.
No.
I love Suspiria. Let's just think about Suspiria.
Yes.
I'll just watch Suspiria again.
Widows
okay?
is coming. Widows is coming.
I'm excited for Widows.
Yes.
But that's not next week. That's the distant future.
Distant future. You can find that young lady at Sidewalk Siren and at Baked Dork on Twitter and Instagram, and she's also at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. Yeah. What are you looking forward to this week, B?
Brian and Darren.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing Mad Max Fury Road Black and Chrome edition on Tuesday?
Oh my God, that's this.
That's Woodbridge. Woodbridge.
I might have to, yeah.
Woodbridge Alamo.
Brian, just say yes, you are. You don't have to
he's not.
really
He's lying.
actually think
He's
about it.
lying. Don't make him lie. Don't make him lie.
I gotta go vote. I'm sorry.
In the evening,
in the
you
morning.
have all
You
day.
vote in the morning.
No, I
but
gotta
you
go
bring
to
up a
work.
great point. That's the most important thing this week is voting on Tuesday morning.
Yes.
Which should be tomorrow morning, depending on when this episode.
Yeah, when
Yes.
it drops. But yeah, so everybody please go out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vote Democrat, please. Don't just vote your conscience. Vote Democrat or don't vote at all.
And vote Mouth Dork at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and the tab. And I'm Darren Smith on all social medias at the Disco Dork. I'm looking forward to voting, hopefully making a difference so we can get shit changed around here. In the meantime, I'm going to go rewatch Overlord. I'm going to go watch The Grinch, and I am also looking forward to going fishing in the West.
Nice.
With my video
So
game.
after you brew the coffee and you drink the coffee, 4 minutes later, do you have your BM?
Here's the thing, right? Horses poop everywhere in that game. I haven't taken a BM yet, but I don't drink coffee in real life because it puts me to sleep.
Weird. Because of the ADD.
Yeah, I spike real fast and then I crash like 5 minutes later. So I haven't made the guy in the game brew or drink coffee yet because I don't drink coffee in real life.
That is going to hinder your game because I bet he's all stopped up.
I know, but I'm giving him cigarettes and beef jerky. So
I think that's going to cause the reverse. I don't know if you can find one in the All West, but you should find him a banana.
Yeah.
Just something.
Yeah,
like just a hot water and a long sit.
You can actually make him pull up a campfire and sit and have a long sit.
Okay.
To rest.
That might help. I'm worried about him.
You know what? Next weekend, Dork, I'll tell you. I'll give you an update. All right.
Okay.
So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for that. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be on the lookout for our Still Awesome episode. We're spotlighting the next film in our Still Awesome series, which is Steve Soderbergh's Out of Sight, starring J-Lo and Mr. George Clooney himself. And then on Friday, we have A Fistful of World War II in honor of Overlord. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until next time.